M. Mohseni de son exposé. Je donne maintenant la parole à la représentante de l'Afghanistan. Madame la représentante, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. Allow me to first thank you for convening today's Security Council meeting on the situation in Afghanistan and congratulating Niger for assuming the presidency of the Council, as well as Indonesia for the successful completion of their term during the month of August. Let me also thank Ms. Deborah Lyon for her statement today and her dedicated efforts in Afghanistan as the Special Representative of the Secretary-General. My sincere appreciation to Mr. Saad Mohseni for his very moving briefing. As the Chairman and Chief Executive of the MOBI Group, Mr. Mohseni has revolutionized the media industry in Afghanistan, leading as a pioneer of the vibrant Afghan media we see today. Mr. President, 1 year ago, we took the floor at this very council asking for your continued support in the extension of the mandate of UNAMA as we entered a critical phase towards the achievement of our long-desired goal of a lasting peace to pave the way for stability and prosperity in Afghanistan. Today, we find ourselves in the culmination of a long process of confidence in consensus-building measures, which in collaboration with our friends, partners, and allies, created a suitable environment for the start of peace talks with Taliban. However, this has not been an easy journey. The last 1 year entailed making some very difficult and hard decisions for the government of Afghanistan. It required the Afghan people to make some very hard choices. The release of 5,000 Taliban prisoners has not been an easy decision or a simple confidence-building measure, but rather a tough compromise for the government and people of Afghanistan in order to achieve the noble aspiration of our people. Starting from President Ghani's call to the Taliban for talks without precondition to the most recent release of Taliban prisoners, the government has not shied away from its compromises in creating a conducive environment for the peace process. We know that the durable peace can only be achieved through active participation of all stakeholders in the process. To build a strong national and political consensus, the government has been in constant engagement with representatives of women, youth, political parties, and civil society organizations. The consultative lawyer jargon on peace, and the most recent one to discuss the release of the remaining 400 Taliban prisoners convicted of serious crimes, including the killing of Afghans and citizens of the international community, have important platforms in identifying the priorities and main concerns of our society in the peace talks. The State Ministry for Peace and the negotiating team have also continued their outreach to civil society actors, youth groups, religious scholars, war victims, parliamentarians, journalists, and entrepreneurs to prepare for the start of intra-Afghan negotiations and garner views and visions. It's no surprise that we hear the call for peace and an end to violence and conflict as the utmost desire and demand of every Afghan. The majority of Afghans from all walks of life demand a perfect peace and preservation of the achievement of past 2 decades, including the Republic in the constitutional rights of Afghan women and minorities. As Mr. Mohseni described, the Afghanistan of today is different from the one from 19 years ago. Today, our vibrant media is the supporting pillar of our young democracy. The powerful voices of our women resonates in every part of our society. Youth engagement and leadership in the country have created a new and hopeful image of our country. And the Republic that represents every Afghan, regardless of their ethnicity, language, gender, or age, has created a system of safety and inclusion that makes our people proud. This is the unwavering and unchangeable new reality of today's Afghanistan. The tangible gains of the last 19 years have defined our new nation, and Afghans are not willing to compromise on these achievements. Knowing the importance of reaching international partners in peace, stability, and development of Afghanistan, building on the regional and international consensus in support of the peace talks have been an important priority for the government of Afghanistan. The government's leadership has been engaged at different levels, especially His Excellency the President and Minister of Foreign Affairs, their regional and international counterparts. This is evident through the recent two conferences on strengthening consensus for peace attended by representatives from the region and beyond, including the UN, EU, and NATO, who supported an Afghan-led and an Afghan-owned peace process. Here I would like to thank countries which are closely involved in the facilitation of the peace talks, like the US, and those who have expressed their willingness to host the intra-Afghan negotiations, including Germany, Indonesia, Norway, Qatar, and Uzbekistan. The role of our immediate and extended neighbors have been extremely important in the peace talks, and on bilateral level, the government has reached out to emphasize on their constructive and supportive engagement. However, as we work together and stand ready to start these defining talks for the future of our country, the Taliban have still continued to carry out attacks, refusing to reduce level of violence throughout the country. As SRSG Lion mentioned, Afghanistan still experiences an increased level of civilian casualties, and on daily basis, people are killed on suicide attacks and road bombs. Our children are still prevented by the Taliban to receive polio vaccination. It's now up to the Taliban to respond to the constant call of Afghan people, to the government of Afghanistan, and to our international partners for the reduction of violence and also an immediate humanitarian ceasefire. Mr. President, in addition to the ongoing conflict, Afghanistan has not been immune to the tragic effects of COVID-19 pandemic and natural disasters. Recently in the Parvan province, the flooding took the lives of many people and caused severe economic damage. Since the beginning of the pandemic, our brave doctors and frontline workers have been devoting their efforts, and our limited resources have been stretched further. Today, the already complicated humanitarian situation in Afghanistan has worsened significantly, with as many as 14 million Afghans being in need of humanitarian aid. Nevertheless, I would be remiss not to mention the gracious support of the United Nations and our international and regional partners in providing different kinds of assistance in this critical time of need. This is further testament of the values of humanity and solidarity which remain at the core of our global family of nations. As we move forward, we need to reevaluate and prioritize and delineate a new path forward that can take us to the next step, an era of post-peace development that can see a self-reliant Afghanistan emerge not only as a prosperous nation, but as a catalyst in the economic and development of our region. The November Pledging Conference on Afghanistan will be of a crucial significance in the renewal of our mutual commitment in consolidating the shared gains and forward-looking vision reflected in the draft Afghanistan National Peace and Development Framework for 2021 to 2025. We look forward to continue our work on finalizing this framework with our development partners and the two co-hosts, Finland and the UN. Mr. President, in conclusion, allow me to express our appreciation once again to the work and efforts of UNAMA led by SRSG Lion and her colleagues in supporting the government and the people of Afghanistan in achieving peace, stability, and prosperity in our country. As the discussion on the UNAMA mandate extension begins this week, I would like to call on all members of the Security Council to carry their deliberation on the mandate's renewal, thinking about the men and women of Afghanistan, the people of a country that has experienced decades of conflict, suffering, action. The people of Afghanistan believe in the United Nations, and we trust that you will work for us. for the vision of a peaceful and prosperous Afghanistan that's built upon our partners' and friends' mutual interest, not their regional confrontation or rivalry. Similarly, as we move forward on our peace talks, the need for greater support, solidarity, and cohesion from the international community is needed more than ever. The start of intra-Afghan negotiation is an important, though a very difficult and delicate chapter in our history. It's going to be a true testament of our ability in protecting our shared gains of the last 2 decades, especially the constitutional rights of women, which we believe together we can get through this very difficult chapter and we can take a firm step towards our joint objective of a dignified and lasting peace in Afghanistan. I thank you, Mr. President.
Je remercie